In this we are going to discuss about the external component of routers. So let's get started. So first of all, I would like to keep one of the scenario to understand the same, and then we will go for the same deep dive. This is what your routers, correct? No, now see, the routers has the interfaces. See, these are the interfaces, some of the power switch and power plug you can see here, and some slots which is available here, correct? No, so external component of router is nothing but understanding the number of interfaces, the type of interfaces you have, and maybe the physical view of your routers as well, which comes under this. So let's take one scenario to understand this quite better. So I'll just take one scenario like this. Let's say that we have the number of devices here which is connected to a particular switch, another switch here, and now number of devices are here again connecting like this. Fine. Now got one of the router and connecting to this, and this router is getting connected to another router in this. You consider this is your one of the LAN segment, and this LAN presents in Delhi, and this is your another LAN segment which is present in Bangalore. This is present in Bangalore. So this is my Delhi router, this is my Bangalore router. In between, this is service provider which is coming into the pictures. Fine. Now see, when it comes to the different type of interfaces to the routers, now just see here the interfaces which you are connecting to your actual LAN segment, I mean the switch. This interface is basically known as your LAN interfaces. It is your LAN interfaces. That's nothing but your Ethernet or fast Ethernet ports will be there, and the connection from here to here, I mean between the routers which you use a cable or connectors, this will be considered as your WAN interfaces, your WAN interfaces, or this is one of the serial interface which you are going to use. Next, there will be one more type of interface you will be getting for this routers, and those are nothing but for administrative interfaces. Administrative interfaces. Fine. Administrative interfaces to access your router initially and to configure, or maybe for advanced troubleshootings you require this administrative ports. So what I'm trying to highlight is by this example that for a single router you may find the different type of interfaces like LAN interface, WAN interface, and administrative interfaces. So let us try and understand this in little more detailed from here. So see this. So interfaces on the router, as you can see, what it is trying to highlight is the same what I have explained to you, like fast Ethernet or maybe some console auxiliary, power switch, and power connections that you have, right? And some serial ports which is available. So routers has three different type of interfaces. The very first one is your LAN interface, then you have WAN and administrative interfaces. So as I discussed, the LAN interfaces are basically used for your LAN connections, to connect your LAN. One more point, in old routers it was named as AUI, attachment unit identifier, or interfaces, but in new routers we have something known as RJ45 Ethernet port, which is your LAN port itself. Make sure the cable from the switch is connected to the router's RJ45 port itself, which is your LAN interface. And always remember, the routers, when it is connecting to your LAN devices, this interface IP address will become the default gateway, correct? No, you see here the IP address assigned to the interface will become the default gateway for your LAN devices. Fine. For example, this is what your RJ45 jack, and this is your connectors and cables, and the speed, as you can see here, you can find it Ethernet, which is for 10 Mbps, and fast Ethernet, which is of your 100 Mbps, and gigabit Ethernet, which is of your 1000 Mbps of speed itself. Now moving ahead, next we have the serial, which is all about your WAN. So routers to routers connectivity. is nothing but your WAN connectivity, and we use the serial interfaces itself to connect them. And there are two type of serial interface you have. One is your normal serial, which is old one, and one is your smart serial, which is new one that we have. So in normal one we had the 60 pins of female connector, and in smart serial we had the 26 pin of female connectors. So nowadays most of the time you will find the smart serial itself. So this is what, this is your normal serial 60 pin, this is your smart serial 26 pins of connectors. Fine. So most of the time in the routers you will be getting the smart serial itself. Nowadays we do not have the normal serials mostly in the new series routers. Now next we have the administrative interface, and as I discussed, there are two port you have. One is your console and another one is your auxiliary port. Always remember, console port is basically for your local administration. It is for local administration. And when it comes to auxiliary, this is basically for your remote administration. Remote administrations. Fine. Say this, remote in the sense remotely you will be able to administrate. So say this, console port is this. First of all, a routers has the console port, and the jack will be basically your RJ45 jack itself. The name is going to be as a console port here, and one of the special cable will be used from your routers to connect your PCs, which is basically called as console cable, which is basically called as console cable, or it is also called as roll over cable. Roll over cable you can use it, in which one side you will have RJ45 to connect into your console port, and one side is the DB9 connector to connect your PCs. Again, DB9 connectors are not available into your PCs or maybe in laptops, so that's the main reason. From DB9 you have the converters to USB. You can connect USB now to your computers. So console cable has the RJ45 and DB9 connector another side. From DB9 you can use the converter to USB and connect to your computers or the laptops and administrate it. Fine. Say this. As I said, this console port is for local administrative port on the routers, and this console port is used for initial configuration of the routers or administrative task like advanced troubleshooting as well. Always remember, the console port is one of the sensitive port. It is one of the sensitive port which cannot be replaced anytime. Never, not even in the modular routers. This port is very sensitive. It cannot be replaced and it cannot be changed. This port is most important port in your routers. Make sure it is of your RJ45, and rollover cable, that's nothing but console cable, is used to connect to the routers to the PCs. COM port, that's nothing but to your PCs itself. Fine. Now next we have auxiliary. So auxiliary, as I discussed, auxiliary port is for your remote administration. Fine. You will be able to connect your routers remotely over the internet and you will be able to administrate. It is also RJ45, and same thing, rollover cable or console cable is used to connect a router's auxiliary port to dial-up modem. That's nothing but for internet. In console we connect to the PCs, in auxiliary we connect to the dial-up modem for the internet access itself. So this is what your auxiliary port. So just to highlight, we have seen three type of interfaces: LAN interface, WAN interface, and the administrative interfaces, and based on our requirement we will be using this interfaces here. So that's it for this lecture. We will see you in the next lecture. Thank you.